We have a great lineup of speakers today, and first speaker to kick this off, good friend of mine. She's a prior gubernatorial candidate. Thanks, veterans, by the way. Big round of applause for our veterans. The reason for your liberty.
Thank you for your prayer, Pastor. And by the way, I do encourage you. You can pray and then in the seat.
Karen is a prior gubernatorial candidate. She's also a prior U.S. senatorial candidate.
Garrett Lear.
She's been active in this state for years. She's a Blue Star mom. She knows what it's about to sacrifice on behalf of this country.
Jesus. Right.
Please welcome my good friend, Karen Testerman.
I don't know many important people other than God.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out on such a great day for such a great man.
I'm glad you brought that up. I really...
Before I get started, if you haven't got one of these blue cards, they're out here. Ask someone for one. Write Jerry a letter of encouragement. Diane has them over under the tent over there, so be sure you get one before you leave. I am only one, but still, I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can still do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. You know, last weekend, I was witness to the hope of America. 53 high school scholars from across this land explained some segment of the United States Constitution while they emphasized the duties and obligations of Americans. It was truly inspiring as each of these young people spoke about we the people, about my responsibilities, about your responsibilities to keep this great vision of America alive. We the people, they said, must do more than just read and understand this document. We must be willing to do our part. We must perform the role of a citizen. We must watch and hold those in our government accountable. Remember, these were high school students, but as they spoke time and time and time again, I was reminded of Jerry Delemus. They were describing Jerry, and just like the founding fathers that they quoted, Jerry has put his life, his fortunes, and his sacred honor on the line. I first encountered this Marine veteran, Jerry Delemus, and his wife Susan, on the political campaign. This couple boldly and unabashedly shared their love of God, the gospel, and America. At their monthly Rochester 912 meetings, we learned and discussed the issues confronting our communities, our states, and our nation. The man I know is one who will lend a helping hand. So ready and willing was he to help his fellow man that Jerry drove an hour plus to our home to help remove ice from our Victorian home. At lunch, Jerry, who does not speak softly, emphasized time and time again our need to share God and his son Jesus. We would not be, nor should we be, ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, he said. So, following lunch and feeling secure, he returned to the final section of ice. And suddenly, a huge piece of ice sent Jerry to the brick porch. Lying in the snow, he reassured us time and time again that he was at peace, but we needed to pray for the persecuted Christians in the Middle East. That was his message throughout his recovery. Then one morning, Jerry called and asked for prayer. He was on his way to Nevada He and others from New Hampshire had assessed the situation, and they were going to stand with the Bundy family for their constitutional rights against the government. His hope and his strength was in God. We rejoiced when they returned safely home several days later. Ever ready to offer aid, in the midst of our kitchen remodel, he again, true to form, assessed the situation, and Jerry was still in communication with the FBI, and so he picked up and left, went out to Oregon to lend a help and try to negotiate a peaceful settlement with the government. But the government wasn't interested, and so Jerry came home. There are those of you who might be questioning why the organizers would couple this event with a public figure. Well, that's because Jerry was an early and extremely vocal supporter of Donald J. Trump, the candidate. Today, Jerry is persecuted for following the example of Jesus Christ and lending a helping hand to his fellow man. He's persecuted for his belief in the Constitution of the United States of America. He's persecuted for his participation in the political process. Today, Jerry is in prison, denied the very rights stated in the Constitution that he, as a veteran Marine and as a citizen, fights to uphold and defend against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Jerry believes in Jesus Christ and the Great Commission, and he shares him wherever he is. And just like the Apostle Paul, Jerry Delemus stands in prison in Nevada as an example for each and every one of us. As Paul's letters from prison exude encouragement to others, Jerry's letters from prison tell of the opportunities that he facilitates amongst the guards and the inmates to hear and share the gospel. Jerry knows deep in his heart that this journey is part of his mission. Today we must stand. We must be bold. We must embrace the example that Jerry sets. It's time to set this political hostage free. We must persistently bang on the doors of President Trump to carry out his promise to right the wrong of government against her people. We must persistently bang on the doors of the president and his administration to free Jerry Delemus and the Bundys. We too must be willing to put our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor on the line. Will you commit? Remember, we are only one, but you are one. You can't do everything, but you can do something. The something that I ought to do, you and I can do. And by the grace of God, we will. Thank you.
Croc TV.